Hello, lords and ladies of the realm. My name is Emily Sophia, and I am going to be walking you guys through the final chapter of Season 4, The Children. So spoiler alert before we dive into the mad and truly fantastic thick of things, as I will be bearing all in this review, and thank you for those of you who are patient in the midst of my uploading process with this vlog. Life has been crazy of late, but no crazier than things have been in Westeros and beyond. So I'm going to do my absolute best to explore each and every fantastic arc in this episode. And if there is anything that I leave to be desired in my review, please feel free to use the comment section as a continuation of my vlog. Keep the discussion going. I will do my best to also respond to your comments, and we will just have the freaking time of our lives, alright? So I have to say that for me personally, this finale was one of my favorite episodes of the series. The only arcs that we didn't get to see in this episode were, of course, Sansa and Littlefinger, but I feel like we left off on a really good note with their story, and that was a cliffhanger there in and of itself. So there was that. We don't really know exactly what's going on with Marjorie and company, just a few other characters sprinkled throughout, and Theon as well. But I feel that all of the different arcs, the different characters, and all of their struggles have been brought to really astonishing, insensitive conclusions. I mean, there was so much brutality in this episode, so many visceral moments, and then those slight little instances that just wrench you right in the gut that maybe don't have violence. It was just so freaking well done. And again, I myself have not yet read the books, although perhaps I will make it a point to do so during this hiatus, as I was almost in tears for a lot of this episode just because I was really sad that the season was ending. So every powerful moment was just made all the more ridiculous in my soul because I was pretty much losing it. Everything. But yeah, so I haven't read the books. I heard that there were some pretty big changes in this finale as compared to how things happen in the books, and that there are certain characters that are pretty major and have not yet been introduced, but I would say that is just the showmakers trying to keep us coming back for more, okay? It's building up the anticipation, so don't get too upset now. Let us appreciate the things that we have and see why the showmakers did what they did and arranged things as they did and all that good stuff. So, favorite moments of the episode, I loved the magical fairy fire grenades on the Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl style skeleton army. That was awesome. So we finally see that Bran and Jojen and everyone, they are being brought into the presence of this prophecy that they had only glimpsed before. Now they are there in the flesh with the three-eyed raven, the all-seeing eye, who is apparently going to give Bran not the ability to walk, but the ability to fly. Now, is that a metaphor, or is that something that we will see literally fulfilled later on? I don't freaking know, but I think it's really exciting that they have at last made this monumental journey, and the things that all of them have sustained despite the loss of Jojen in this episode. I mean, it is incredibly satisfying to see them get to this place of strange and bizarre wonder with the children of the forest. So I don't know much about these folks, but hey, if they can chuck fireballs at the drop of a hat, I might consider throwing in my lot with them. That was pretty great. As far as moments of extreme emotion, Dany chaining up her dragons after the discovery of the the young girl who had been killed by their in-flight antics. That was just such a powerful moment and has remained true to this version of Dany that we've seen come about in the process of her queenship over Meereen, is that she realizes the difficulties that are to be encountered in creating her new world order. And she sees that there are so many who are not ready for this world that she has created. She sees herself as the breaker of chains, and any instance in which people ask to go back to those chains that she has freed them from, she's gonna raise one of those frickin' Emilia Clarke eyebrows of legendariness and be like, excuse me? Do you know who I am and what exactly I have come to do here on this dance floor that is Meereen? First Meereen, then the world. And then, well, every other land she has encountered where she has liberated slaves. And yet, at the very end of her arc in this episode, she has to chain up her children, okay? So it goes from her trying to free the world to, in her own maternal position, have to enslave her children to the darkness and confine them to where they cannot hurt anyone else. She has this world vision that she cannot bring about in fullness, because where others are free, others must be enslaved. That is the reality of this world. And I was on the verge of like boo-hoo bawling as her little babies are chomping at the bit, ready to get out and just live life, and they can't. Because for some people, I mean, if just living your life consists of charring small toddlers, then perhaps you should not. And that is the call that Dany has to make. And you know, I love that they called this episode The Children, because I think in some sense it applies to every single arc that we saw in this episode. It applies to the Lannisters, whose children are making a serious uprising, okay? With Tyrion making the great escape, Cersei saying, screw you, Dad. By the way, I screwed your son. Have fun with that knowledge. Jaime helping Tyrion be freed, and then agreeing to this full disclosure and passionate relationship with Cersei. And it's just pretty much like the children are on the loose, okay? I have no idea what is going to become of House Lannister in the days to come, but the spotlight's on them. I mean, especially being that dear old daddy-o, patriarch, was killed on the poo-poo. So, see you later, sir. And, yeah, I mean, they are running this show. But what exactly is going to transpire in the days to come now that Tywin, who is such a powerful figure, has been taken out of the picture? Who freaking knows just where we're going? It's like that. Did you guys ever watch that show, Zavumafu, when you were little? A freaking PBS series where it was like, where we going? I don't know. How do we get there? Come on, let's go. Me and you and the Lannisters doing stuff because we can. Sorry we don't have a dad anymore, cause we don't like him. We don't like him telling us what to do. We're gonna do it and be cool. That was completely made up on the spot, so enjoy that little tidbit. Anyway, so the children. We see the Lannister children doing their thing. And then, of course, the children who Bran and Hodor and company encounter, and we don't know what's going on there quite yet, unless you've read the books. Maybe you do. I don't. I am basking in the glory of wonder and mystery, okay? So don't ruin it for me. And then, of course, Dany's children as well. Yeah, there's just so, that title is just so fitting. It's so pervasive with all the different storylines that we see going on here. So, super super huge moments. The battle between Brienne and the Hound, okay? I was just like raging against that, and yet it was such an awesome scene, but I hated it because I love them both and I didn't want either of them to die. But so I had to sit there watching this unfold and kind of think, okay, think fast, Emily. Who are you going to be okay with dying? Or basically I had to kind of justify things going one way or the other, because they are these two misfit powerhouses who, I mean, granted, Brienne of course is involved with the Lannisters, whom Arya and the Hound violently oppose, but at the same time really what is driving her is her oath to Arya's mother and what she believes that she needs to do. It is integrity not only to herself but to the people whom this promise, this vow involved. And yes, it was passed on through Jaime to Brienne, through the Lannisters, okay. But at the same time, she sees herself as doing what is right for Arya, and that is her life's mission. She is beyond the machinations of society. She sees what she needs to do for the people whom she has sworn a vow to or whom she cares for. And then of course the Hound, he is ever on the periphery of things, and finally he owns up to taking care of Arya, and he must do that in that instance where he goes to oppose Brienne, because it's like, she's asking him, exactly what are you doing with this girl? If you're not going to let me reach out and protect her, do you say that you are actually doing that? And he's like, yes. And then of course they break into battle, and it is just brutal. You know it's a good fight when they drop the swords, they drop the weaponry, and they resort to fists and every other part of their body that they can use to enact harm upon the other. And we definitely got that in just this huge sweeping landscape in the middle of nowhere, or at least 10 miles away from the Bloody Gate where Arya and the Hound just were. Now they're trying to kind of pick up the pieces and figure out where they want to go, what they want to do, who they want to take out, you know? So it was a great scene, and I feel I am at peace with the way that things ended in that arc, with Arya so coldly leaving the Hound to die. He tries to incite her to wrath, and then he does indeed resort to begging her. He initially just asks for a sip of wine, and she takes his drink away from him and walks off, and it's pretty much like, okay, so on my little bubble and exam, I can choose A, chill with the Hound until he breathes his last and then do what the crap ever. B, go with Bran and try to reintegrate into society. Or C, do something else entirely. And that of course is what Arya chooses. And I mean, it bums us out because I think that Arya and Brienne would get along so perfectly. And the way that Brienne approaches her when she discovers her is in such a kind and friendly way. She's ready and willing to connect, you know? So that was an awesome moment. I'm just like, you guys, be best friends, do it for my sake. They didn't listen to me, but I guess I will have to live with that. Because Arya is following her own path in life. She is forging her way. Not sure what's to become of Brienne and Podrick now. I mean, perhaps they'll try to seek out Sansa, maybe? I'm not exactly sure, because I mean, Brienne's got her own picking up the pieces that she has to do. She just made a huge sacrifice to attempt to take care of Arya, but Arya's got other plans. So I do have a question for you guys, something that I would like to have clarified, and I'm sorry if this is perhaps a stupid question, but deep down inside, I'm full of them, and I'm not afraid to ask them in the case of this vlog. So, is Arya bound for Bravos? For the Wall, since she presented the Iron Coin and Valar Morghulis and all that jazz? I mean, did she get her ticket to where she wanted to go? Is she going somewhere else new? Or are we not supposed to know? okay? Because that was a little bit ambiguous, and I could see how it, like, why they would make that ambiguous, because basically the bottom line is Arya is going where she wants to go. She is getting the hell out of Dodge, away from Westeros, where she has sustained the cruelest abuses. I mean, she's just getting gone. That's fine by me. I was just curious as to, you know, after she presented the coin to the man who said that he was just going home to Braavos, does that mean that she's going to Braavos, or that now she's got a free ticket to ride to wherever she wants to be with the cabin? So that is a question that I had, and that was not exactly answered unless I totally missed something. So, but she's going her own way. I'm happy for her and scared. But I mean, it's just crazy because now we're at a point in the game where a couple of the most interesting characters on the show are taken off. You know, we've got Bran and Hodor and Jojen's sister, whose name I will forever and always forget. They are with the children. Arya is taken off. Tyrion is in a box on the sea, heading off to make himself a new life, and Varys just decides to go with. He's like, well, I hear the bell tolling. I know that things went down. What should I, in this situation, being that I assume something terrible has happened, where do I go? And he decides to take off as well. So all of his characters are going in all these different directions. The question is, who is going to confront whom? Is this the time for new characters to be introduced? I dare say yes. We already got a couple new faces in the game in this episode as well. So yeah, the universe is expanding, all right, and with a couple of our major kind of villain characters taken out of the fray, what are the implications of this going to be? And then, of course, we had freaking Stannis show up in the north, okay? I did not see that coming. I did have it spoiled for me that Stannis and Jon Snow were going to meet one another, and that Stannis was going to bring some terms to Jon, but I didn't really know what, when, where. A lot of elements of that were out of the picture for me. So when he comes out of the fog, like, okay, after we get that huge long shot of Stannis' armies just penetrating the forest where the wildlings are, where Jon is attempting to make peace with Mansa, the king of the world beyond, all of a sudden, he just, that was so beautifully. The cinematography in that moment of Stannis' reveal was awesome. I'm really excited now because for the longest time, up until the battle last week, I was not exactly interested in what was going on at the wall as much. But now, you got me at full attention, okay? I am listening, so tell me what is going on in this department, okay? And then, of course, Jon tries to defuse the situation, preventing any other further killings of the wildlings by speaking to Stannis of his father, the sacrifice that his father made for Stannis. So it's that old Stark Baratheon friendship we've got going on there. And then at the vigil for the dead at Castle Black, we see Jon looking into the flames, and then on the other side we see the Red Priestess, who is looking, as she always does, like she has got something up her sleeves. That being her connection to the Lord of the Light and all the weird spirituality that she possesses. So I don't know if something interesting is going to happen between those two, but we saw that, like, you know, they're on both sides of the flames, and something magical ensuing there. And we also got a really, really touching moment with our final goodbye to Ygritte, and Jon's final goodbye as he has that private funeral with her, and gives her the honor of burning her body. And he also gets to speak about her with Mance when the two of them meet, and then also with Tormund, is that his name? He's being held captive at Castle Black and still alive, not yet to be tortured. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with him, but they get to speak briefly about Jon's love for Ygritte. One of the greater love stories in this season, so it was kind of cool to see these instances where they were paying homage to that relationship. And how I love the way that Tormund put it, that he knew that Ygritte loved Jon because all she could talk about was how she was going to kill him. So that's, you know, in your own relationships, keep your eyes, ears, and mind open to the ways in which your love might express those affections, okay? Yeah, but I'm very fascinated to see what is going to become of Jon and Stannis. I'm really starting to feel the momentum for him, that's for sure, because Stannis was kind of stuck at Dragonstone, pouting a wee bit, as one might do after very badly losing a huge battle and opportunity to establish yourself as the Lord of all. But yeah, so that's going to be a point of development in the next season, I dare say. Yeah, so I think that the only thing that I haven't really talked about in great detail is the Lannister affairs. Okay, so they were definitely one of the major focal points of this relationship, and so many powerful performances and just sticking it to the man. That man being poor Tywin, who has been running this show left, right, up, and down pretty much this entire time. Now he is finally out of the picture, and before then, Cersei makes it a point to inform him that, yep, definitely did it with your son. Just wanted you to know, I'm also not going to marry the guy that you want me to. I'm going to hold down the family in the way that I see fit. And so just this whole, like, this is the way that you see things. This is what you want to believe. This is what you really do believe deep down. Then, of course, Cersei confronts Jaime, who is still quite bitter about the fallout of the battle between the Viper and the Mountain. But Cersei quickly diffuses the situation by asserting her sexuality and showing Jaime that she accepts him. That when she says that she wants to stay in King's Landing with Tommen, her son, she wants to be with Jaime. And ultimately it's that love is the death of duty, love conquers all kind of thing going on. He very quickly falls for her. At the same time, he has not yet given up on his brother, who he helps arrange his way out of his execution, which is what I had hoped for deep down in my little heart, and what a lot of us had hoped and expected. And it was just such a glorious moment. I mean, something that I really noticed in this episode was that the soundtrack was, in the most intense moments, very light, if not absent. So it made these suspenseful moments that much more intense, having that absence of this, like, da-da-da, da-da, like, we get that at the very end, of course, which, as Arya is on the ship and the camera's panning out and all the epicness you could ever ask for is right there in that moment, so we get the music there. But of course, as Tyrion is on his way out and making his way through the dark corridors into his fate, we have this sort of silence. And I love that moment. I love that moment where Jaime and Tyrion embrace one another, because it may very well be the last time that they ever see each other. Chew on that one, if you will. And Jaime gives him that brotherly kiss, and it was just so, like, I'm telling you, I ship Tyrion and Jaime far more than I could ever ship Jaime and Cersei. Okay, I'm just saying, there was some chemistry. Maybe not of the romantic or sexual kind, but chemistry nonetheless. Got my heart just a pitter-patter. And then, after that confrontation, Tyrion finds Shae in Tywin's bed. Okay, and at first, I thought that I heard her murmuring, like, Tywin, my lion, and then she looks up, and there is Tyrion, who, in the heat of this moment of seeing her there in the flesh, but not for him, and in fact in a place that is entirely against him, he takes her out and chokes her out in just this brutal moment that asphyxiates us as much as it does Shae. And yet I couldn't blame him. I mean, he has had all this emotion pent up within him, and seeing so many people betray him, that this final act of betrayal was one that he could not pass. And so, surprisingly, in that moment, I really sympathized. I did. Because basically my brain was like, whatever you gotta do to get out of here, do it. And then, this was one of the most awesome moments. So he grabs Joffrey's bow and heads down the hall. And we also see him earlier on passing the emblem of the Lannister family, so the lion, you know, we see Tyrion walk right on past that, like, I am moving beyond family, beyond ties, beyond anything that I could have pretended to have been a part of. I know that I was always an outsider, and now I am going to make my place as an outsider. But not simply to be the other to the Lannister family, but to be his own person. And then, of course, then we see him encounter Tywin most suitably on the toilet. I mean, that was always kind of the way that I felt. Like, I felt like Tywin is just this noble, very put together guy. Of course he wasn't gonna die that way. You know. To see who people really are in their final moments. So he's just kind of sitting there like, okay, all right, I'll work my way out of this one, and just denying to the very last moment. Denying to himself the reality that he loathes his son and that he wanted him gone and out of the picture, but he still tries to get out of the situation until, of course, he calls Shae a whore. And ironically enough, that is the place where Tyrion draws the line. And that prompts the first arrow that he fires into his Papa Dearest. But yeah, it was just such a victorious moment. And the fact that Tywin is killed with the bow of his grandson. You know, like that, it's this whole sort of the crazy Lannister inbreeding phenomenon, like that is basically what I think that they were pointing at here, is like they're all just kind of killing each other. But that's not simply what Tyrion is doing here. This is his moment of triumph. This is he's closing the books on all the abuse and wretchedness that he has had to sustain for simply being a dwarf. As he said in his trial, he has put an end to that trial and is now moving forward with Varys along for the ride, because screw all of that's happening back there. Yeah, but just some hugely powerful, beautiful moments. What a fantastic finale. In my book, I'm giving it an A. Got no problem with it there. So let me know what you guys thought, and thank you so much for those of you who watched my reviews of the 4th season of Game of Thrones. Of course I will be back next year, okay? Next on the docket, I'm going to be reviewing True Detective and finding some new series to bring into the channel. Other things as well. I've been crazy busy, but again, I really want this channel to grow. I want you to be there. I want to be there too. Thank you guys for being wonderful and amazing, and I'm so emotional. I'm gonna miss the show a lot. This was a fantastic way to end things. Yeah, just your thoughts, your whatevers, all of them in the comments. Let's go. Do it up. Love you to pieces. And of course, I will be back before you know it.